Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Bioactive Live Q&A. This is episode 51, and we've got a nice pre-recorded change of pace episode for you guys today. February is kicking off kind of a rough time for a lot of people dealing with seasonal affect disorder, dealing with mental health, and just health issues in general. And there's really not a better time in the year, especially for us northern folk. I'm in Michigan. Brian is in Colorado, and Kevin is in Oklahoma, which is definitely a little more temperate than what we're used to up here. And this is a tough time of year always for myself, dealing with anxiety and depression. And I know that a lot of other folks deal with this stuff, which has been stigmatized to talk about this in our culture, and especially for men, it seems that it is a sign of weakness to admit that you're not well, whether it's actual physical health or your emotional health, which is equally as important to your actual physical health. And so we wanted to take the next few weeks to really touch base with those folks that are having a tough time, a rough go with the darkness, the cold, the restrictions on gardening and getting outside and staying connected with the earth. So if you're in the northern parts, you definitely understand what's going on and what I'm talking about, because the ground is completely frozen solid. You couldn't go out there and get dirty if you really wanted to. And if you're blessed to have an indoor garden, a no-till, regenerative growing space, you do get that connection, but you don't always get that grounding, and you don't get that natural sunlight that our bodies and minds desperately need. So this is going to be a great week where we can take a step back and kind of do some housekeeping of our own. And there's not really a better person for this community that can speak on mental health than Kevin from Okcalyxx. He's got experience with dealing in mental health because he had these issues himself. He had these challenges that he had to face, and he's been a pillar for me in my mental health struggles. And I know that he can be a pillar for a lot of the young men and women in this community that are struggling as well. His video is a pre-recorded video that he put together for Matt Power's Our Future conference, which just passed. And we wanted to share that on this platform because it is a powerful message and it's a great analogy. The title of it's called Composting Manure for Good Mental Soil. And he uses our love and passion in the garden, in the soil, as an analogy for tending to our own mental health and our own minds. Before we get rolling on this video, I did want to take a moment to shout out the 3 contributors to the show. Yours truly, Mark from mibeneficials.com, Kevin, who's putting this episode together from okcalyxx.com, and Brian from rubberduckyisopods.com. Without those 2 guys, honestly, I don't know where I would be. This year specifically, I've been dealing with some significant mental health issues, ones that I've been working through, but I've been leaning heavily on those 2 gentlemen. And I would urge anybody that's struggling with mental health issues to lean on your community, lean on your friends. By sharing that you are also struggling can actually help others because they are likely struggling as well. If they're not struggling currently, they've struggled in the past. And it's a good reminder for those people that have gotten through mental health issues that it can happen to any of us. So we need to stay diligent. We need to treat ourselves right. We need to take care of our minds. And the rest really does fall into place. So don't hesitate to reach out to people in your community, including the 3 of us. If you're ever struggling, it is a privilege to be able to help one another. And it shouldn't be a stigma to talk about this stuff. And if you like this show and you like this platform, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Share these episodes with your friends and anyone else that can really use some help. And with that, let's get this show rolling.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin. I am Okcalyxx on Instagram and social media. Okcalyxx Organics, my business. Welcome to our future 2025. Thank you to Matt Powers for asking me to talk. And Happy New Year's to everybody. It's a brand new start, brand new year. It's January. It's freezing cold where I'm at here in Oklahoma. But I enjoy the changes of the weather. And so we're going to get a little cold weather, and then it'll warm back up and it'll be time to garden before you know it. So I appreciate y'all coming and listening. The name of this talk is Composting Mind Manure for Good Mental Soil. So we're going to discuss some mental health, really is what we're going to do, but I'm going to use analogies from nature, from gardening. Mainly the topic will be composting that I'll be using. However, the reason I chose this is the beginning of the year. And just within this week, the first week of the year, I've talked to a few of my friends, and a few of them have expressed to me just mental struggles, just some darkness. Um, don't feel good, don't know how to name it, but that's common for guys about our age, for girls around my age. A lot when you have kids, when you have jobs, you got a lot of responsibilities. It's heavy sometimes in life, man. So I like to speak about these things because I have gone through it. I went through a lot of anxiety and depression. I got some tools to help me manage it, to help me get out of that, and to feel like I feel good and it's enjoyable to live. And that's where I want to get other people to be because I can understand the darkness and the yuckiness. So if you'll just bear with me, I'm going to give you some tools to use, and at the end here, I'll give you 3 tools to use to help develop good mental soil. And, for about 41 years, I lived with very toxic mental soil. And what I mean by that is, you're growing out of what has happened to you and what is happening right now. So it's the past and the present. That's what's forming your mind, forming your thoughts, forming your beliefs. So all the history of our life really is kind of what we're growing out of, whether we like it or not. And often those things are not fun. It's amazing how all shaping your childhood years are, 1 through 15, even 20, the things that you do and happen to you, the things that you read or listen to, how you're influenced, just it affects you into your later years also. So it's good to have good mental health, and I want to teach you composting mind manure. And I'm going to explain what mind manure is, composting that mind manure for good mental soil. When I was 41 years old, I'm almost 50 now. When I was 41 years old, I actually realized that I had anxiety and depression because I had gone through some counseling and some other things. And on August 26, 2016, it was, I believe, a Friday. I was sitting there with my brother-in-law, had a beer in my hand, and I was like, I'm just done with beer. I'm done with everything they're giving me for anxiety and depression. I gotta have a start over. And I cold turkeyed every single thing that they had me on, and I cold turkeyed all the extras fun stuff I was doing, and just quit on that day. And I started a path of trying to get myself mentally healthy. There were lots of things that played into it, not just one thing. There is no fix all. There's a lifestyle, and there's choices you make, and there's new paths you take, new people, new environments that you get around, and it's just a process that really starts to work with you. But it was tough, very doable. Not like you can't handle it. It took me about, 3 to 4 years of rearranging my entire mindset and how I thought to deal with my anxiety and depression. But, I can give you a lot of valuable information pertaining to life and mental health and anxiety and depression, addiction. I like to share my wins. I like to share my losses. And I know I can bring you at least to where I am, and I can also encourage you to go further than where I am also with your mental health and really reaching out and starting to help other people once you become healthy yourself. And I can use organics and gardening as analogies all day long to help us understand our own mental health because we are very similar to the way plants grow. And I mean, we could talk about how we are similar to plants for hours. I could. The similarities, the analogies, and the ways to live in a better way than other ways to live, good soil to grow in, sunshine, all the fun stuff that plants love. We can use those as analogies for our own life. But one example, comes from biblical text in Matthew 13. Jesus, a lot of biblical text, a lot of old ancient Near Eastern texts. We'll use agriculture as analogies for life teaching, right? And in Matthew 13 it says a farmer went out and sowed a seed. He was scattering the seed, and some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up quickly. Some fell on the rocky places, and it had shallow soil, and it couldn't establish roots, and the sun came out and it withered and it dies. And then some of the seed falls onto some thorny patches and starts to establish itself and grow, but something else grows faster than it, chokes it out and dies. And then finally, some of the seed falls on good soil, it says, to produce a crop 160, 30 times more than what was thrown out. And so, listening to that as an organic gardener, I'm like, okay, good soil is important. I like this. It's important not to have thorny soil. It's important not to throw your seed on the path where birds are going to get it. It needs to be placed intentionally, right? We plant our seed in the good soil, not on the poor soil. But that's the idea that I want to use with composting. You get the idea with that, throwing seed down in good soil. But there's also a higher meaning to that also. Your mind is like soil. Your thoughts are like seeds. You hear, it's that little ditty that goes, oh gosh, now I could probably say it, but your mind is something, you're above the seeds, you can grow plants or you can grow weeds. I can't remember exactly how it grows. That's what I'm talking about. It is like that. Your mind is the soil. Like I said, your past and your present are the soil. There's nothing you can do about it. It is what it is right now. If you haven't worked your soil is probably kind of poor, and you're going to start to learn to check your mental soil and just see how well can you grow with the mentality you have right now. Bad soil doesn't grow things. And I was at a point where I wasn't growing. Life got beyond me and I couldn't get there. So organic gardening tells me, or Jesus's examples of good gardening, I'm sure it was organic back then, tells me good soil is important. So I want to create good mental health. And again, composting mind manure for good mental soil, which means we're talking about good mental health here. So just as gardens have soil to grow plants in, your mind is the soil from which your thoughts will begin to grow. You might have shallow soil, thorny soil. You might have good mental soil. It is possible. But what are you intentionally growing the thoughts you want? Sometimes you have thoughts that just come up and you can't stop them. When you're dealing with anxiety, depression, stuff like that, you have a lot of stress, there'll be a thought that just loops and loops and loops, and you cannot stop thinking about that thing. That's an unhealthy mindset. If it continues, if you do it a few times, you're like, okay, I'm aware of it. All right, I got to control that. I got to go deal with it right now so I don't keep thinking like this. That's good. But if you keep thinking about it over and over and over for a week or two or a month and you're just not doing anything about it, you realize that that's not good. That is actually toxic for you because you cannot grow right now because you're only growing that one thought right now. And it's just looping. You're not growing. That thought's getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the soil you've given it. So you want the good mental soil and all these things that start to pile up in your mind, the mind manure. I want to give some specific examples maybe of the mind manure that's in all of us. It's common to all of us. We all have freaking issues, y'all. There's nobody, well, I'll get into normal here in a minute. No one's normal. But childhood trauma, something bad happened to you as a kid, something scary happened to you, whatever the case may be. I had my own stuff. But yeah, and you thought about it for years, and some people don't want to mention anything. Some people have gone to counseling. Some people are still dealing with it. That's in your mind. And if it's not dealt with, remember, you're only growing that thought in that soil. You got to be able to have good soil that can grow other thoughts. But childhood trauma, a split family, that's always super tough. Maybe you had a bad injury that changed the direction of your life. That can do a lot to a person in a negative way if you haven't processed it correctly. Dumb choices as a young person, guilty of a few of those. You might have gone through a lot of abuse or little abuse, any abuse at all, not going to be good if it hasn't been processed down and dealt with correctly. Letting your family down, done that. I've had people do it to me. It's just what happens. We do it, and everybody has to deal with it when they do it. Maybe done some jail time, caught lying. Maybe you've been in addictions. There are addictions. Stuff like that you just cannot get past. That's that mind manure that you're going to have to deal with. And I had a lot of those things that I hadn't dealt with. And after a while, you feel yucky about them. And then you start to feel like, okay, I'm supposed to feel yucky. And maybe I should always feel yucky and I don't get to feel happy because I've done a lot of these things. That's mental illness. That doesn't mean you're hallucinating. That's not what we're saying, man. Mental illness is when you're unhealthy mentally. That's it. It doesn't have to be any more than that. And so when you're thinking stuff that's not true, that's mentally unhealthy. When you convince yourself of a reality that's not real, that's mentally unhealthy. And so you got to be aware of these things that you're thinking. You got to compost that mind manure, the thoughts that keep looping, the issues you keep having, things that you have not dealt with in the past is probably causing you to numb out with alcohol or pills so you don't have to go through the emotions and the feelings and process it, which is very difficult sometimes. That's mind manure, and you got to compost that down. Normal. There's nobody normal. When I was struggling with all this stuff, I remember thinking, I just want to feel normal. And I came to find out that that is a common phrase and a common feeling that people struggling with anxiety will say, I want to feel normal. And again, I'm not a psychiatrist, anything like that. I'm only sharing my experience with you and the tools that I have learned. These may help, these may not, but these help me. So it was a good thing. But learning that there is no normal, everybody has issues. And the funny thing about it, not funny, but the funny thing about it is everybody thinks that everybody is thinking about them and their issue, when in reality, everybody is individually thinking about themselves and their own issues and thinking everybody's thinking about them. It's a crazy way the human mind works, but when you can snap out of those unhealthy thoughts and be like, nobody's thinking about me. I am not that important. I mean, I am important, but in their eyes, they're way more important than I am. And in my eyes, I'm way more important than they are. So what they have to think is more about them, I guarantee it, than more about you. And when you can start to snap out of that loop and be like, people aren't thinking about me, I'm good, right? Everybody does silly things. Let's move on. When you're able to get in that mindset, you're going to be mentally healthy. That's what you become. But don't compare yourself to normal, because, especially with social media, normal now is perfect. That's not normal. We do not live in a perfect world whatsoever. And if you can't deal with imperfection, then you're going to have struggles and issues because you want the world to change and you're not going to change. So the situation around you doesn't change. You have to change. And that's where when you do change, that's where you start to hopefully become mentally healthy. Um, you start to realize how everybody's got issues. And if I just worry about me, I'm going to feel a whole lot better about myself. I'm going to start to be able to hold my chin up, shoulders back, take a deep breath, and say, who can I help? I'm starting to feel a lot better. Who can I go and help and tell them my story? And that's where you get to realizing no one's normal. I have elevated myself to a different person. I feel better, but I'm not going to compare myself to anybody else because that's impossible. That's unhealthy thinking. That's not thinking what's true. It's not thinking what's real. So I had a lot of negative thoughts pile up. I lived a toxic life for 41 years, mentally toxic, and just, the normal stuff is not good for you. And when you don't deal with emotions. And I was really, like we would say earlier, or like plants. I was a deficient plant. I was there and I was existing, but if you looked at me, you'd be like, "Oh man, I got a rough shape. That's a tough plant. He needs some help." That was me. So I realized something had to change in my life, and that's when I had to do something then other than what I was doing, right? I needed something to change. And this is now we're up at the three tools that I'm going to give you. Three tools for creating good mental soil, composting that mind manure, those past events, those things that bug you right now that are causing you shame or anxiety, that mind manure, compost that stuff down. Here is how to do it. Three ways that helped me. There's lots of ways, but I'm going to give you some specific things. And I'm going to continue to use compost as my analogy. Three tools to help composting mind manure into good mental soil. Number one, the red wiggler of mental soil is counseling. That red wiggler produces good stuff. And trust me, I know that there's a lot of people, as I felt it too, and I talked to a friend this week that felt the same way. It feels a little bit like a weakness, or, like you lack something whenever you like, I'm going to counseling. Uh-uh. I tell people all the time, sick, desperate, despaired people can't do anything. But if you're moving forward somewhat, taking a step and getting into the fight, going to a little bit of counseling, going to YouTube and looking up good videos. I mean, there's so much good stuff right now. But if you're doing that, you're in the fight. You're not in despair, man. You're moving forward. And that is what you want to be doing. Counseling is going to help move you forward. I went to counseling. I felt like I was a weakling. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I did feel a weirdness about it. My wife got me to go. We both went together the first time. It was kind of helpful. The first things that I heard, I'm like, okay, that was kind of good. And I went back like 3 or 4 times, but that it gives you tools. Counseling will give you some tools to move forward if you're feeling just that yucky feeling. You don't know what it is, you can't name it. You've been to a pain doctor, you've been to the liver doctor, you've been to the throat doctor, you don't know what's going on. Man, counseling is going to help you take some steps forward. And life has got beyond you if you're in anxiety and depression. And that's why you need some tools. You need the red wigglers. You need the counseling to get into your mind and really begin to process things down so they can become useful, right? So I often felt like I had disappointed people, and that was my weird self-punishment of I shouldn't be happy because I've messed up, and so here I am. Again, super sick. That a little bit of counseling got me over that, but I didn't know I was doing that. That was just a loop that I was in, and that was normal for me to respond in that manner. And that got me out, helped me get moving a little bit. So just like composting, man, right now in my compost, if I go grab a handful of it, turn it over, it's cold as can be, but there are hundreds of red wigglers in there. All the black soldier flies are still there, but they are just froze up, probably dead. But the red wigglers right now doing the work, and they'll do fine processing of it. And that vermicompost is fantastic. And that's the same thing with counseling, man. It gets into some fine details of your life and helps you move forward a little bit more. Takes allows you to freaking breathe, man. I remember I couldn't breathe at all. It was rough. Just you feel like you can't breathe. You don't know why. But some of those things eased it up a little bit. Like I said, it's not just one cure all, it was a process. But rule number one or tool number one, do some counseling, man. It's going to help you out a whole lot. Number two, the black soldier fly larva of good mental soil, cognitive behavioral therapy. You don't have to go to counseling to find out what cognitive behavioral therapy is. It's something that was very useful to me, and it's useful to a lot of people because I've had a lot of people have success with it, but it's something that I had no idea about when I was struggling with all that stuff, right? So the cognitive behavioral therapy is the black soldier fly because you start getting into having to change the way you are. And you might know in compost, if you lift that old watermelon over in the middle of July, you're like, ooh, let's put that back down. That's sloppy. That's rough looking. Same thing with cognitive behavioral therapy. You start to learn that you need to change and that you have created some patterns that are so destructive and you had no idea. And you're like, oh my goodness, that is rough. I had no idea I was this negative or I was this deep into thinking the worst thought first and going from there. So, yeah, the cognitive behavioral therapy is simply this: think correctly so you can live correctly. That's it. If you're thinking incorrectly, you're going to have a hard time living correctly. It's very difficult. And you get into what's called confirmation bias. And I'll give you an example of how I started my own confirmation bias. Confirmation bias can be good or bad. The idea is this, that if you wake up in the morning, you're like, this day is awful. It's going to be cold. It's going to be terrible outside. Well, walk outside. Your mind will start to confirm that bias feeling you have and say, yeah, ooh, it is cold. Ooh, the wind's blowing. Look at that. Yeah, the leaves are blowing. Oh, the skies are gray, aren't they? Yeah, dark, 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 scary, cold. And your mind just tries to confirm what precedent you've set. You know, your brain tries to confirm it and saying, yeah, okay, let's help this guy look for what he's looking for. Your brain's a super powerful tool. Um, but if you wake up and this is what I did, and I just created this idea on my own, and hopefully it might help some people, but it was not a fix all. It was a process that I continued to work. But I'd wake up, right, and I'd start daily having this, not a mantra, but just a thing that I would say so that my own brain would hear what I'm thinking. I would say that loud. If it was Monday, it'd be like, I love Mondays. Today's Monday. I love Mondays. I'm going to make today awesome. And I did two things. I'm going to help somebody and I'm going to make somebody laugh. That's all I tried to do. That was it. At the very beginning, I felt like I could hardly do anything. I could barely get my mind to shut off, and I wasn't using anything to make my emotions go away. And it was super raw emotionally feeling. But when I started to wake up and set the tone better than what I was doing, instead of waking up worried about everything that might come my way, I was like, okay, I want to set the tone. Wake up. Today's Monday. Yes, I love Mondays. All right, it's gonna be awesome today. I'm gonna help somebody. I'm gonna make somebody laugh. And if I just held the door open for somebody, that counts. Made somebody smile. So one of my kids at my gym smile. Boom, that counts. Make my own kids smile. My wife's, whoever. Just try to get out of my own head a little bit and get into helping somebody else. You know, it helped a phrase that Jordan Peterson helped me with. And if you don't know who Jordan Peterson is, look him up. Very helpful. I encourage you to look up Jordan Peterson and lobsters. You're welcome. So I learned a phrase from Jordan Peterson, and I kind of I shifted it into my own way, but I got it from him. Fight the dragon that hoards your peace while they're still young, so that they're easier to defeat. And he would say, fight the dragon that hoards your peace. And what he's meaning is, Dragon has the gold. He's got everything. He's got all that you want. He's stolen your treasure and he guards it fiercely and he doesn't want to give it back. And you're typically afraid to go fight the dragon. And the less you go and deal with that dragon, the older and the bigger he gets. And more than likely, you're not going to get your treasure back. You're too scared later. And the point is, go fight the dragons that hoard your peace. Whatever it is you're dealing with or struggling in your mind and your mentality, what's going on in your life, whatever just won't leave you alone. Go fight that freaking dragon and deal with it. Deal with it now because it's going to get tougher later. And you begin to learn in life when I have something bothering me or I wake up and it's on my mind, I'm dealing with it at 8 a.m. in the morning. And I'm going to be done. I'm going to shut this feeling down in my life. I'm going to take control. I'm going to fight the dragon so I get my peace back. And I'm going to do it quickly so it's easier. I'm going to sit there and worry and think about it all day. Do it immediately. So yeah, that was a good one. Fight the dragons that hoard your peace while they're young, so they're easier to defeat. And then finally, I want to go over them. Red wigglers, counseling, black soldier fly larva, cognitive behavioral therapy. The microbes of good mental soil is an act of helping others. Now, not everybody can go to counseling nor they want to go to counseling, and I get it. If you can't do that, you can look up some videos on cognitive behavioral therapy and get some ideas with that. If that's not your thing, try to get out of your own head by helping others. In a phrase I remember in my counseling was this: when you feel helpless, start helping other people. Get out of your own head, quit feeling like you have nothing that you can do, and go open a door for somebody and say, "You're welcome." Get out of your own head, start helping somebody, because another phrase that I remember is difficult people have difficulties. And am I that guy? I started wondering, am I the difficult guy with difficulties? Am I the dude that snaps back quick? Because difficult people have difficulties, but it's also good to remember that the reverse of looking at other people saying, well, no reason they're so difficult right now is they probably got some difficulties going on in their life. So maybe I can back off a little bit. Again, it's a great way to think, but helping others, getting out of your head. If you don't want to do the counseling, don't want to do any cognitive behavioral therapy stuff, what will help you the most, if you ask me, mental health wise, helping other people. Get out of your head, man. What I'm doing this year is I'm teaching my neighbor organic gardening. Love it. It's fun. And it's not really that I need to be doing this for my mental health. It's that I do it because I want good mental health, right? It's just the lifestyle now that we're trying to do, trying to help somebody else. And the fun thing is this, guys, it's not the end victory. It's not the end war winning, right? The winning of the war. It's the individual battles. It's the small accruing victories that help build confidence. You don't have to win the war to have learned or gained a lot as a human being in the path, in the fight or in the path to get to where you want to go. It's those little bitty victories. So you learn to celebrate the victories. And when you're helping other people or you feel good about it, you're like, yes, that was a good day. Today was it. I'm going to celebrate that and tell my own self good job. I'm going to cheerlead my own self on. And it's going to be a great day. So compost that my manure. Start the beginning of the year dealing with any issues that you feel like you got. You'll have a much more enjoyable life. It affects us all. Matt talked about people that will be attending: farmers, gardeners, permaculture, indoor, outdoor growers, entrepreneurs, all these people. We're all the same. Everybody has these issues. If you can deal with yourself and get your own mental soil growing, you're going to grow as a human being. And the other things that you're wanting to do in life are going to be better. You're going to be able to do them. You'll have a drive and a passion you never had before, but you got to think about you. You got to deal with you this year. And that is my encouragement to you as a speaker at Our Soil. I love helping out people organic or mentally with organics. Someday we'll talk about some of the other things that I do that you can go check out at Okcalyxx Organics. You can check out my Okcalyxx page, Okcalyxx Genetics on Instagram. You can email me, okcalyxx@gmail.com. These are all my slaps I like to send out with all the genetics and all the inputs that I have. But thank you for listening, guys. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful new year. See you guys later.
Truly a powerful message from Kevin and an amazing analogy for those of us that find solace and purpose and meaning in the soil and in the biology of healthy soil. You know, like Kevin said, your mind is the soil, your thoughts are the seeds. And when you sow and you work on that healthy soil, you plant good seeds, have good thoughts, and only good things can come of that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of a break from the habits that have got us to where we are to kind of reset our brains, to reset our wavelengths, and to get into a better space. And personally, for me, I have a lot of similarities to Kevin. Um, with addiction problems and trying to find balance in my use of anything that's good, really. Anything that brings me a dopamine hit, I have a trouble and a hard time finding the balance in that. So it is not a unique thing to me. It's not unique to Kevin. But for me, it's taken a little bit of a break from my devices to get a clear mind, to really start working on those healthy thoughts and that healthy mind. And similar to taking a break from the fertilizers and the chemicals that we poured onto land to make our grass green, which in effect killed that healthy soil, turned it into sterile soil. That takes time and that takes work. And so there's really no better time than the present. If you're not feeling right, if you're dealing with issues, to maybe take a break, take a step back. It's not always as easy as Kevin said to go cold turkey, but through great pain comes great need for change. And when you're just in so much pain and inner turmoil, you're almost willing to do anything to fix that. So highly recommend anybody struggling. Don't be embarrassed to go reach out to counsel, to speak with someone. Talk to your brothers, talk to your sisters, talk to your family, and talk to your community. And when all else fails, talk to a professional. They're there to help, and it's not about what they have to necessarily preach to you. They're there to help you unwind these negative thoughts so that you can get to a place of positivity. Just like you watch this podcast for information and inspiration on improving your gardens, lean on your resources, lean on your fellow community members or professionals to get that inspiration or that lead. I hope that what you guys gathered from this episode is that it's okay to not be okay. And it's certainly okay to talk about it. And the more we talk about it, the less it becomes an isolating thing for people to want to curl up in a ball and just kind of give up. That's not the essence of life, and that's not the essence of building healthy soil. And we hope that you all know that although this community is built around cannabis or bioactive enclosures, building healthy soil systems, education, we're also here to help each other get back up when we fall down. All boats rise together. That's truly the essence of what this show's about. And we wanted to hit this one square in the nose. If you're not feeling well, let's talk about it. It's okay. Nobody thinks less of you. And as a matter of fact, by sharing your insecurities, it actually, in my opinion, it makes you a stronger person because it tells me that you're looking to get better. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. And we hope that by sharing our experiences a little bit, that we can get this conversation going for people that maybe were afraid to talk about it before. And if you guys have any questions, follow-ups, concerns, whatever, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below on this YouTube video. You can feel free to DM Brian, Kevin, or myself on Instagram or through email, whatever have you. We're always here for you. We appreciate the support on the show. And again, if you like this platform, if you want to see this thing grow and get the word out to more people about what we have here, don't hesitate to hit that like button, subscribe button, and share this with your friends. We're here to watch all boats rise together and to spread the good word about healthy soils and healthy minds. Hope you guys all have a great night. And until next week, be kind to one another. Be available for one another, and don't be afraid to share if you're struggling. Have a great night, everyone.